What if you've already met your soulmate and didn't realize it? Before God presents you with that special person, He first works on your heart. Today I want to share with you why it's so important to prepare your soul before the encounter. You're going to discover how inner silence and daily prayer are essential to sharpen your spiritual hearing, how a soulmate isn't just someone you're drawn to, but someone with whom you share purpose and mission, and why humility, the ability to stop asking for what I want and start asking for what God dreams for me, is truly the beginning of the journey. We'll explore all of this through the light of a beautiful promise. Delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart. Psalm 37 verse 4. Tell me in the comments, is it hard for you to let go of control and trust that God has a perfect plan for your relationships? First way, God introduces your soulmate as a trustworthy friend. God's plan doesn't usually begin with a big spectacle. In fact, it rarely does. God is not a magician who suddenly appears with loud signs, nor does He act like the movies we're so used to, full of intense emotions, random encounters at airports, or love at first sight. The way God works is different. It's deeper, more subtle, more wise. And many times, when it comes to introducing you to your soulmate, He does it in a way that almost always goes unnoticed, as a trustworthy friend. Yes, just as you're reading it, that special person may already be in your life. They didn't necessarily show up yesterday, and they might not appear tomorrow with a dramatic declaration. Maybe they've been by your side for years, sharing simple conversations, listening without judgment, caring for you without expecting anything in return. But your eyes haven't fully opened yet. Because sometimes we expect love to come wrapped in strong emotions, and God, instead, wraps it in peace, in consistency, in quiet respect. One of the greatest distractions of the human heart today is the anxiety of finding the right person. But often, that anxiety blinds us. We want someone new, someone exciting, someone to pull us out of where we are. We want to feel something different, when in truth, the most different thing is what God has already done so carefully. Placing someone near you who isn't trying to impress you, but to truly know you. Someone who didn't come into your life to shine, but to stay. Your soulmate doesn't always feel like an earthquake. Sometimes they feel like a root. Like the person who doesn't need many words to bring you peace. Like that friend who remembers what you said without needing reminders. Who knows when to be silent and when to lift you up. Who rejoices in your victories without competing with you. Who doesn't judge your failures, but prays for you. That's where God's work begins to be revealed. And do you know why you often don't notice it? Because your heart is still waiting for fireworks. But God doesn't use fireworks. He uses process. He uses bonds planted with faithfulness. A soulmate is not just someone you're drawn to, but someone who transforms you. Someone who, by their mere presence, reminds you that you are worthy of love as you are, and at the same time inspires you to become better. There are friendships that are not born of chance, but of heaven. People who don't just share your time, but your soul. True love often grows from sincere friendship, from trust built over time, without masks or pretense. Because friendship is the fertile ground where God plants His deepest connections. That's where relationships grow that last. Relationships built not just on desire, but on purpose. I invite you to look around with new eyes. Pause for a moment. Think about who has been with you in your hardest times. Who has held you up when you didn't know how to keep going. That person who has remained faithful, even when you weren't faithful to yourself. Could it be that God is speaking to you through that quiet constancy? Could it be that the soulmate you keep asking Him for is already near, but you can't see them because you're expecting a different kind of entrance? Faith teaches us to see the invisible, to hear what isn't shouted, to value what doesn't shine at first glance, but sustains life. Don't underestimate friendship, because God, in His infinite tenderness, often hides His greatest blessings in what is simple, in what is ordinary, in what seems insignificant. The real question is not, when will my soulmate arrive? But, who have I failed to see with an open heart? Second way, God reveals your soulmate in the midst of pain or trial. There is no more honest moment in life than when the soul passes through pain. When everything you once held onto begins to fall apart. When the certainties that gave you security suddenly feel fragile. when illness touches your body or your soul feels lonely, broken, tired. It is precisely there, in those dark spaces, that God acts in the most profound way. Not because He wants you to suffer, but because suffering reveals what is essential. And one of the most mysterious and beautiful ways in which God introduces you to your soulmate is when you no longer have the strength to pretend. In moments of trial, masks fall away. Appearances crumble. The ego falls silent. And it's then that true love can enter. Not the idealized love, not the love that only knows your best version, but the one that stays when you're broken, vulnerable, and confused. That kind of love doesn't run away. It doesn't get scared by your sadness. It doesn't leave when you're weak. It stays. It walks with you. It holds you up. And in that silent act of faithfulness, God is speaking to you. Sometimes the answer to your prayer doesn't come in the form of a miracle, but in the form of someone who simply doesn't leave. Someone who isn't there to offer a quick fix, but to carry the weight of your burden with you. That person who looks at you with compassion, not pity. Who understands your pain, even if they can't always express it in words. Who shows up, not to rescue you, but to walk beside you in the night. Have you noticed who's been there for you when you needed it the most? God doesn't abandon you in the trial. And many times, His way of saying, "I'm here," is through someone who appears in the middle of the storm and doesn't move, even when everything else is shaking. That person is a sign, a promise, a glimpse of a love that is born not from abundance, but from scarcity. Because when someone loves you in your pain, that love has already been tested by fire. Many people search for a soulmate among those who make them laugh. But a soulmate is revealed more clearly in the one who doesn't let go when you cry. In the one who knows your wounds but doesn't define you by them. In the one who sees your fragility and still chooses to stay. That is the kind of love that's not superficial, because it has already reached the depths. It's a love that isn't built in the happy days, but in the days when everything hurts. Because what is born of sincere suffering cannot be replaced by any false joy. Maybe the person who stood by your side during illness, loss, or the silence of depression wasn't just a good person. They were someone sent. Someone God placed in your life as a reflection of His own love. Maybe you didn't realize it at the time, because you were focused on surviving the pain. But now, looking back, you can see that there was a constant presence. Someone who didn't have all the answers but had something even more precious, the ability to stay. That's not common. Not everyone stays. Many walk away when the road gets hard. When you can no longer give, when you're no longer fun to be around, when you have no strength left. But a soulmate doesn't show up to benefit from your best moments. They appear, or rather, they are revealed, when you have nothing to give in return. Because in that moment, love stops being a transaction and becomes a gift. Pure, true. And there, right in that place of vulnerability, God is showing you something. He is opening your eyes so you can see that you're not alone. That not everything is lost. That even in the midst of pain, a new story can begin. A story built on the solid rock of compassion, presence, and silent faithfulness. Third way, God places your soulmate on the path of your mission. There comes a moment when you stop asking, "Who is for me?" and start asking, "Why am I here?" That moment changes everything. It marks a before and after. It's when you begin to understand that life isn't about satisfying your immediate desires, but about living with a purpose that goes beyond yourself. And when you start walking with that purpose in your heart, God reveals something deeper. True love is not just about companionship, it's about shared mission. A soulmate doesn't come simply to complete you, but to push you toward who you were created to be. And that's why, many times, God introduces that person when you begin to respond to your calling. Maybe you've spent years waiting for a relationship to make you feel complete. But maybe it's not about feeling, it's about serving. Maybe the person God wants to unite you with won't come to fill your emptiness, but to walk alongside you while you also become an answer to others. A soulmate, in God's plan, isn't someone who entertains you while life goes by. It's someone who challenges you to grow, who reminds you of your calling when you're distracted, who prays with you, corrects you with love, and motivates you to look more toward heaven than toward yourself. This is important. God unites souls with intertwined purposes. They are not copies of each other. They don't have to think the same or share the same passions. But there is a deep coherence between their lives. An invisible harmony that allows them, as they walk together, not to clash, but to strengthen each other. The true sign that you're with your soulmate isn't emotional intensity or instant attraction. It's the spiritual fruit that relationship produces in your life. It helps you become more holy. It helps you serve better. It helps you love God more deeply and others more selflessly. And when it happens, it is an immense gift. Because it's rare to find someone who doesn't lead you away from heaven, but takes you by the hand and walks with you toward it. That person exists. And God doesn't hide them, but He doesn't reveal them before the right time either. He reveals them when your heart is no longer seeking just companionship, but mission. When, instead of waiting for someone to save you, you become a vessel of salvation for others. Then, on that path of surrender, they appear. Not as a distraction, but as an answer. There are examples that inspire us. One of them is Saint Francis of Assisi and Saint Clare. They were not spouses in the traditional sense, but their souls were deeply united in mission. They shared a common vision, to live the gospel radically, with simplicity, and with complete love for Christ. And in that shared passion to serve, they saw in each other a reflection of God. They understood one another, cared for one another, and walked together in spirit. They didn't need to possess each other because they already knew they belonged to God. And from that certainty, their love bloomed like a flame that still burns centuries later. This is how God works. He shapes you in solitude, purifies you through trials, and then, when your heart no longer seeks an idol but a companion in faith, He introduces someone who has also been shaped by Him. That person won't be perfect, just as you are not. But together, in your imperfections, you can build something eternal. Because God doesn't unite souls out of whim. He unites them for mission. And that mission can take many forms. It might be a family open to life. It might be a social cause. It might be a community vocation. Or it might simply be walking side by side, growing, loving, and serving as a living testimony to others. What matters is that there is no ego, no competition, no suffocation. There is freedom. There is momentum. There is heaven. When God places your soulmate on the path of your mission, you'll recognize it not by what you feel, but by what that person awakens in you. More love for him, more desire to serve, more awareness of your worth, and of what you're called to give. That is the key. And that's why a soulmate is not something you chase obsessively. It is someone you receive, while faithfully walking the path God has already placed before you. Fourth way, God places your soulmate within your community or service. Sometimes, we search for our soulmate with very specific expectations, looking for a connection that is purely personal and emotional, one that fills us in a way only another person supposedly can. However, in God's plan, the revelation of a soulmate is not always as direct or easy to recognize as we might think. In His infinite wisdom, God often introduces our soulmates not only during moments of personal joy or fulfillment, but also within the context of service and community. Many times, it is in moments of selfless giving, in situations where we least expect it, that we encounter the presence of someone who, over time, will walk with us in a deep and meaningful way. Communion in faith and service to others are two paths where God moves powerfully. When we engage in acts of service, whether in our church, in our community, or in daily life, God allows us to see beyond the surface of relationships. He invites us to look at the heart of others, not just their appearance or abilities, but their true selves, the ones willing to serve God and neighbor. In this way, hearts become intertwined through the shared mission of following Christ and spreading His love in the world. This is the true essence of the Christian life. Not living for oneself, but for others, generously and compassionately. It's important to understand that a soulmate doesn't always arrive in the midst of grand events or romantic moments. In many cases, God presents them quietly, in moments of service and community work. A soulmate might be someone with whom you share the mission of helping others, of bringing God's love to those in need. In this context, the relationship does not begin with superficial attraction, but with a shared desire to do good, to serve others, and to follow God's will. This is one of the most powerful ways in which God unites people, through a purpose greater than themselves. Unconditional, selfless love for others. When you get involved in shared service, whether in your church, a charity, or even a simple act of kindness toward a neighbor, you are participating in something much bigger than yourself. God moves through these moments, and it is in these humble, simple acts that soulmates are often revealed. You might not notice it right away, but every action you take in God's name and in service to others has the power to bring you closer to the person destined to walk with you. The bond forged in service runs much deeper than any surface-level emotional connection. It is a spiritual bond rooted in the love of God. Mutual service creates a unity that transcends physical or superficial attraction. In teamwork, especially when that work is aimed at serving others, a different kind of unity emerges, one that becomes a true bond. This bond isn't based on what the other person can give you, but on what the two of you can offer to others together, in the name of God's love. Through service, the true essence of love is revealed, not as personal satisfaction or emotional gain, but as a selfless act of giving that reflects Christ's love for us. In this context, a soulmate is not someone who simply makes you feel special by being near you, but someone who, alongside you, dedicates themselves to serving God and others. That's why true love, in its purest form, emerges when we commit ourselves to serving others without expecting anything in return. So often, our ideas about love are focused on what we hope to receive from another person. But true love, as modeled by Christ, is found in total and unconditional self-giving. When you are willing to give, to sacrifice, and to serve, you are not only following Jesus' example, but you are also opening your heart to the possibility that God may reveal to you the person with whom you'll share not just a life of love, but a life of service. And the most beautiful part is this. In the process of serving others, God guides you to the one who is also willing to walk the same path, a path of mutual giving and shared love. A beautiful example of this kind of service and unity can be found in the relationship between Mary and Martha, two sisters who, though they served God in different ways, shared a deep love for him. Mary sat at the feet of Jesus, listening to his teachings, while Martha took care of the practical details and the service. Both were devoted to the Lord, each in their own way, and both reflected a sincere and deep love for Christ through their actions. The bond between Mary and Martha wasn't based solely on the tasks they performed, but on their shared love for Jesus. In the same way, God can weave our lives together with those of others through mutual service, even if the ways we serve are different. It's in that difference and complementarity that we discover the true richness of the relationship. Not in uniformity, but in mutual love and respect. Sometimes, in serving, you're not just helping others, you're also allowing God to prepare your heart for something greater. Something that connects you with a person who, like you, is committed to love and service. This connection, which may seem simple and natural, can become the foundation of a deep and lasting relationship. Not because you meet in some sudden or spectacular way, but because you have both been walking the same path of service and love. Fifth way, God reveals your soulmate in times of inner healing. In each of our lives, there are moments of deep suffering and pain, situations that leave permanent marks. These are the times when the wounds of the soul, invisible to others, are exposed, and we're confronted with our most profound vulnerability. Yet it is precisely in these moments of inner healing that God has a redemptive purpose. He knows that it is in the midst of human fragility, when we feel broken, that we are most open to receiving His grace. And it is in these same moments of personal restoration that God may allow your soulmate to enter your life, not to heal you instantly, but to walk beside you in the healing process. Instead of arriving as a quick or superficial fix to your problems, this person becomes a true companion on your journey to wholeness. The one God sends into your life is not a temporary remedy, but a human being who, with patience and love, helps you tend to your deepest wounds. This is not someone who will offer easy answers or magically erase the pain with their presence. The soulmate God sends during this stage of your life is someone who helps you integrate your suffering in a way that transforms it, who helps you heal, and who walks with you as that pain becomes a path of spiritual and emotional growth. Life is full of challenges. Moments that make us question our identity, our ability to move forward, our capacity to trust love again. During these seasons, God knows the exact time to send someone who will not only love you, but also help rebuild you. This person doesn't come to fill a void, but to be a divine instrument in your healing process. A soulmate, in these times of restoration, appears as a steady presence, not just a comfort in the storm, but someone who encourages healing and growth. They don't fill the silence of your loneliness with empty promises. They walk with you while God works in your heart. It is along the path of healing where the difference between a shallow relationship and a true one becomes clear. Shallow relationships may temporarily distract or numb the pain, but the deep relationships God prepares for us are meant to transform us. The soulmate God brings into your life during restoration is someone who walks the healing journey with you. They don't seek to erase the pain, but to honor it as part of the story that will bind you together. They become a witness to your healing process, someone who helps you close painful chapters and encourages you to open yourself to true love, a love that is rooted not only in mutual acceptance but in the redemption of each other's broken places. God knows the perfect timing for all things. He knows your heart, your struggles, and exactly when to bring someone into your life. Not just to love you, but to help heal the wounds you've tried to mend on your own for so long. This person will be a means of grace, someone through whom you'll experience healing that goes beyond emotion and reaches the deepest parts of your being. The healing you experience with your soulmate is not immediate, nor is it about fixing brokenness quickly. It's a journey taken together, a slow but transformative process marked by love, understanding, and patience. One of life's greatest lessons is that true love isn't built on perfection or the absence of pain. It is forged through walking together, learning together, and being willing to heal together. A soulmate doesn't come to magically solve all your problems. They come to be a constant presence, someone who walks with you in your darkest hours, when healing feels impossible. Together, as you each heal, you learn to open yourselves more fully to what God has prepared for you both. This process isn't fast, but it is the kind that transforms the most, because it requires genuine commitment from both to participate in the divine plan God has for their lives. It's not about looking to someone else to solve your life, but allowing that person, through their love and support, to help you find the peace that comes only from God. Love between two people, when rooted in faith and in the willingness to walk through healing together, becomes a source of light that can mend even the deepest wounds. In the stories of couples who've overcome profound trials, grief, illness, failure, you often see how the relationship becomes a space of mutual healing. It's not just about finding someone to share the good times, but someone who will face adversity with you, learn to heal and grow with you, and above all, help you see God in the process. Personal restoration is not an easy path, and it often feels long and painful. But God knows how to work in moments of fragility. He knows that in our weakest moments, we are most open to the grace that transforms. Your soulmate is not a quick fix or a surface-level solution. They are a gift from God, arriving at the right time, when you're ready to heal and grow. Together, in God's love, you will walk toward a fuller life, learning not only to heal your own wounds, but also those of others, becoming a living testimony to what divine love can do in human hearts.